Joining us now, host of MSNBC's Tucker Carlson. Tucker, who is also a real person who hates hypocrisy, and Air America radio host Rachel Maddow. Thanks to both of you for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right. So, Tucker, is it that they've had a change of heart? Are they lying? Is it hypocritical? What is happening?
Well, I mean, you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. Giuliani on the social issues is pretty darn liberal. I mean, you know, more liberal than Howard Dean in some ways. Dean is against gun control. Mitt Romney has changed on almost every significant social issue, but he, at least on one issue, abortion, he admits it. He's like John Edwards that way. Edwards voted for the war, and he admits it was a mistake. Romney does the same. The question is, do you believe it's a true change of heart or not? I don't know. John McCain, I think he's actually kind of telling the truth. He has been, in his voting record, pretty consistent. He doesn't like the leadership of the conservative movement. They've always irritated him, and he went after him in 2000. I was actually at that speech he showed a clip from. But his voting record, I think, has remained pretty much the same.
Rachel, I think sometimes that there's an overemphasis on flip-flopping, right? I mean, people say, oh, you said one thing one time, and then you said something else another time. But it seems to me this is more than flip-flopping. This is a fundamental change, at least with regard to Romney and Giuliani, in terms of what their core positions were on some of the most important issues of the day. The question is, are they going to flip back when the general election occurs?
Well, this is an issue about, is this their character or is this just their politics? Does this say that they are people who twist in the wind and who just decide what their political position is going to be based on what's advantageous, which of course is what the flip-flop allegation means? Or are these people who have had legitimate epiphanies about what would seem to be core issues that can be more rationally explained?
Well, in the Iowa Values voter poll, all right, Mitt Romney was the quote winner. Seems like that I don't think they are in love with any of them. 27.6%. I think they like Huckabee, but he can't seem to really get the support they would hope. 27.1%. Paul at 15, Thompson at 10, and then Giuliani and McCain at almost negligible numbers. Tucker, why do you think Romney is coming in so high? I mean, you had Brownback drop out,
right?
Who was probably the most conservative candidate that they had. Now they've got Huckabee there. Why aren't they all sort of running to Huckabee rather than Romney?
Well, they may be. I mean, I'm not sure that's a great poll. The one I used that in my show today and was scolded for it. I think that may be not a representative poll. But the deeper truth is, and you know this as a TV show host, people like to be pandered to. You know, you say, I'm on your side, I represent your views, and people love you for it. I mean, that's just kind of the human nature. And I think Romney, who really is the only one I think you could call, whose character I think you could call into question on the flip-flopping issue, he's done that. I mean, he's identified the issues that are important to conservative voters, and he's honed in on them, and he's saying what they want to hear, and of course they like him for it.
You know, Fred Thompson came in as this sort of was going to be the great conservative hope, and I think that was before people investigated sort of what he was really about.
Fred Thompson, the abortion lobbyist?
Right. I mean, it's like he was supposed to come in, oh, Fred Thompson's going to be the great conservative, and he too is now coming into question about sort of what his positions were and what they are now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in every election season, what you have is people running in the primaries trying to convince the base that they are as ideologically solid as the base wants them to be, and then in the general election you see people scooting over. But in this one, it is people having to denounce their entire previous record and explain it away with weird epiphanies.
So is that good for the Democrats? Is that a win?
Well, there's not much going on in the Republican side right now that is not good for the Democrats. I think the Republicans look like they're in utter disarray. I think their voters hate them. I think their donors hate them. And I think that right now things have kind of never looked better for the Democrats.
Let me play one quick sound. This is Fred Thompson talking about Giuliani at the debate last night.
Mayor Giuliani believes in federal funding for abortion. He believes in sanctuary cities. He's for gun control. He supported Mario Cuomo, a liberal Democrat, against a Republican who's running for governor, then opposed the governor's tax cuts when he was there. So I simply disagree with him on those issues, and he sides with Hillary Clinton on each of those issues I just mentioned.
Ooh, the Clinton term, Tucker. I mean, you get tainted with the Hillary Clinton thing, and you're done, you're finished. You had any association with her in any way, if you cross the same street as Hillary Clinton on one day, you're done.
No, well, I know she's quite popular in your neighborhood in our business, but the truth is, in a Republican primary, being like Hillary, Dan, is not actually the goal. In fact, being very different from Hillary and in beating her, the general, that's the goal. Republicans don't love Hillary. News from nowhere. So, no, that's not a compliment that Fred Thompson's throwing out there.
Right. All right, Tucker Carlson, as always, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate
it.
Rachel stays with us. Now to growing calls for the criminal prosecution, of former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. The U.S. Inspector General could soon recommend Gonzales be prosecuted for lying about the U.S. attorney firings or other alleged lies to Congress. Last week, Gonzales retained a high-profile defense lawyer. Apparently, he's refusing to answer questions from the Inspector General. My take? Gonzales' politicization of the office of Attorney General is unprecedented. He'll be remembered as one of the worst attorneys general ever. But I'm not convinced they'll actually prosecute him. Joining us now is Attorney Robert Rabin, who worked in the Justice Department during the Clinton administration. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. You think they're actually going to prosecute him?
I think they may well.
Really?
Well, it's a high hurdle. I think you're going to see a very important report come out of the Department of Justice. There's an Inspector General who is right now looking at whether or not there's enough evidence to go forward with a recommendation on a criminal referral. This has happened before. And it's always very, very complicated and very difficult.
Right, but let's be clear. I mean, we're talking about potentially prosecuting the former Attorney General of the United States. And I would think that the hurdle would be very high, despite what I just said about his performance. But you think that it's still a real possibility that he'll be prosecuted essentially for lying?
Well, the evidence is bad. It's a very high hurdle, but it's not a higher hurdle or a lower hurdle because he was the Attorney General. He's a citizen of the United States, and we're all treated the same. And earlier this year, Stephen Grouse from the Department of Interior was sent to prison for 10 months for lying to Congress. The charges that people are talking about are dreadfully serious. It's lying to Congress, it's tampering with witness, it's possible obstruction of justice. They're serious. The FBI takes it seriously. The Department of Justice takes it seriously. Now, there'll be a tremendous political overlay, and we're going to hear a lot of conversation about it. But you asked, is it possible that we'll see a prosecution? And absolutely, it's possible.
Well, you know, Rachel, we have to say, wow, before we even discuss this, the idea of the former Attorney General of the United States being prosecuted for statements that he made while he was Attorney General about being Attorney General is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and especially because the context in which he will have been caught out lying, if he does get caught out lying for this stuff, is itself a huge justice scandal. I mean, what he'll get nailed for if he gets nailed is lying to Congress about how involved he was in firing U.S. attorneys for political partisan reasons or in coaching witnesses because of that investigation. That itself is such a core of the republic scandal, and for him to get nailed in conjunction with that, I think would be earth-shattering.
You think it's going to happen?
It's political whether or not it happens. It depends on how much of a hard break the Bush administration and this new Attorney General wants with Alberto Gonzales' legacy.
Robert Rabin, Rachel Maddow, good to see you in house.
Thanks. Nice to see you too.